Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to my next zoology class. This class is dedicated for 11th standard. And in this class, we will be discussing hormones that are released from posterior lobe of pituitary gland. You people are already aware of the fact that आज हम अपने ट्रेडिशनल लैंग्वेज में बात करेंगे प्लस उर्दू में भी कशिर पढ़ प्लस उर्दू पढ़ फॉर द इजी कन्वीनियंस ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स. So you people are already aware of the fact that if this is the pituitary gland and this is the intermediate lobe of the pituitary gland, pars intermedia, this is the anterior lobe, और ये वाला हिस्सा this being the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. इस posterior lobe of pituitary gland में हाइपोथैलेमस से न्यूरॉन्स आ जाते हैं. लेट अस सपोज these two are the hypothalamic nuclei जो आपने पढ़ा है पहले. हाइपोथैलेमिक न्यूक्लियस से आते हैं न्यूरॉन्स and these neurons actually innervate neurons ch acan ek yath mans posterior lobe pituitary gland mans and among neuron and then axon in neurons के axons में और in neurons के axon terminals में स्पेशल किस्म के sac like स्ट्रक्चर्स होते हैं. उन sac like स्ट्रक्चर्स को आपने कहा है Herring's bodies and उन्हीं Herring's bodies and मज actually store आसन. Let us suppose this is a Herring's bodies and इन्हीं Herring's bodies में store होते हैं very two special types of hormones. And the first hormone we discussed was something called oxytocin and the second hormone was vasopressin. So simultaneously you people also know that ये जो ऑक्सीटोसिन होता है, ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन के रिसेप्टर्स जो होते हैं दे आर लोकेटेड इन द यूटेरस. और मैंने ये भी कहा था कि वैसोप्रेसिन जो होता है, वैसोप्रेसिन इज अ हार्मोन व्हिच इज प्रोड्यूस्ड फ्रॉम द हाइपोथैलेमस, released into the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. I mean, it is stored in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland, and from this posterior lobe of pituitary gland, these hormones are then stored in Herring's bodies. ये वैसोप्रेसिन हार्मोन जो है, इस वैसोप्रेसिन हार्मोन के जो टारगेट स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं, the target structure for vasopressin is just your kidneys, or you may simply call nephrons. यही दो हार्मोन्स हमें आज पढ़ने हैं. So first of all, we will move to oxytocin hormone. You should know that it's a neurohormone produced from your hypothalamus, oxytocin hormone, and stored here in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. Now, as far as the hormone is concerned, first of all, you should know one thing, that if this is the female reproductive system, this female reproductive system contains uterus, contains ovaries, first ovary, second ovary, as well as contains special tubes. These tubes you call fallopian tubes. Likewise, on this side also there is fallopian tube, and this region be the cervix, and from the cervix this part be the vaginal orifice or vaginal canal or birth canal. Let us suppose this is the birth canal and this region be the cervix, this region be the uterus, these are the fallopian tubes, and these are the ovaries. Now let us suppose in this female reproductive system there is fetus that is developing, and fetus has a contact with the maternal blood by a special structure. That special structure you call placenta. Okay. Simultaneously, आपको ये बात याद रखनी जरूरी है कि the wall of uterus is highly muscular. This wall of uterus is actually highly muscular in nature because it contains large number of muscle cells. When we study uterus in class 12th, there we have to study the detailed description of several layers of uterus. But right now, we have to deal with endocrinology. And in this topic, we will just focus what the oxytocin hormone does to this uterus. Let us suppose the fetus, and you also know that human pregnancy lasts for approximately 270 days. That is usually 9 months. And these 9 months are usually divided into 3 parts. First 3 months, middle 3 months, and the last 3 months. The first 3 months for the first trimester. This is the first trimester. This is the second trimester. And this is the third trimester. Trereth makes the 9 months. So first trimester, second trimester, and third trimester. As the third trimester, there is onset of third trimester. जब तीसरा semester start होता है, not third month, but 7th month onwards. Plus when 7th month starts, after 7th month, what happens is that this uterus undergoes mild contractions and relaxations. Mild contractions plus relaxations. These mild contractions and relaxations, you may have heard of a movie called PK, in which वो बोलता है एक common term kick मारता है. Like that, there are mild contractions and relaxations in the uterus. These mild contractions and relaxations are actually called Braxton Hicks reflexes. These are known as Braxton Hicks reflexes. Braxton Hicks reflexes. So these mild contractions and relaxations, in the uterus are due to the production of special chemicals, due to production of special signaling molecules. These signaling molecules are known as prostaglandins. Special chemicals are produced from the uterus. These chemicals are known as prostaglandins. Due to these prostaglandins, the uterus undergoes vigorous contractions and relaxations. Now, the point number 2. These mild contractions and relaxations, then stimulate actually the release of a very special hormone. That special hormone you call oxytocin. What I told is that due to these mild contractions and relaxations in the uterus of females, pregnant ladies, pregnant mothers, what happens is that these mild contractions and relaxations stimulate the posterior lobe of pituitary gland from the mother, and from this posterior lobe of pituitary gland, this oxytocin hormone is released. When oxytocin hormone is released, this oxytocin hormone is discharged into the blood. When it's discharged into the blood, this blood takes the oxytocin hormone up to the uterus, up to the wall of uterus. This is the wall of uterus. And in the uterus, there are present very special cells, muscle cells. In the wall of uterus, there are present muscle cells. In the wall of uterus, there are present muscle cells like this. So these muscle cells contain receptors for oxytocin hormone. These muscle cells contain receptors for oxytocin hormone. These muscle cells in the uterus, the muscle cells contain receptors for oxytocin hormone. And then this oxytocin hormone binds with the receptor. 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 Obviously, hormone receptor complex will be formed. When hormone receptor complex is formed, then this oxytocin hormone causes the uterus to intensify the contractions. What I told you is that during the third trimester, there occur mild contractions and relaxation in the uterus due to the production of prostaglandin from the uterus. These mild contractions and relaxations को हमने कहा Braxton Hicks reflexes. इन Braxton Hicks reflexes की वजह से एक मदर के पोस्टीरियर पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड स्टिमुलेट होता है और वहां से निकल जाता है ये वाला हार्मोन, दैट इज ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन, दैट इज फ्रॉम द पोस्टीरियर लोब ऑफ पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड. देयर आर प्रेजेंट Heringer's bodies. From these Heringer's bodies, let us suppose this oxytocin hormone is discharged. This oxytocin hormone is discharged into the blood. जब ये oxytocin hormone blood में जाता है, blood takes it to the target organ. टारगेट ऑर्गन मैंने कहा यूट्रस की मसल सेल्स, यूटेरस की मसल सेल्स. लेट अस सपोज मसल सेल फॉर यूट्रस. इस यूट्रस की मसल सेल्स में होते हैं स्पेशल टाइप्स ऑफ रिसेप्टर्स. These receptors are actually the oxytocin receptors. These receptors are the oxytocin receptors. And what happens is that when this oxytocin hormone binds with the receptor, उसके बाद हार्मोन रिसेप्टर कॉम्प्लेक्स बन जाता है. जब हार्मोन रिसेप्टर कॉम्प्लेक्स बन गया, आफ्टर द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ हार्मोन रिसेप्टर कॉम्प्लेक्स, तब ये हार्मोन काम करता है यूट्रस में. कौन सा काम यूट्रस में करता है? ये हार्मोन जो है ये इस यूट्रस की कंट्रैक्शंस को और एनहांस करता है. यूट्रस में गसन बेबी ज्यादा कंट्रैक्शंस. शुड आई से दैट इट इंटेंसिफाइज द कंट्रैक्शंस? आई मीन मदर की यूट्रस में कंट्रैक्शन अब माइल्ड कंट्रैक्शंस के बदले स्टार्ट होती है विगरस कंट्रैक्शंस. These vigorous contractions and relaxations. These vigorous contractions and relaxations begin in uterus of the mother. तो इन vigorous contractions and relaxations को ही हम नाम देते हैं. This vigorous contraction and relaxation in the mother that we call labor pain. This term should be familiar to you people. There is the onset of labor pain. When I say labor pain, it means pain of delivery or pain of birth. We should say it is the pain of delivery. Labor pain is the pain of delivery. Okay. Sir, these contractions and relaxations, this labor pain finally results in the birth of the young one. So, first of all, there are uterine contractions. After uterine contractions, there is expulsion of fetus. When I say expulsion, expel मतलब बाहर निकालना. There is expulsion of fetus. After expulsion of fetus, the third thing happens is that उसके बाद एक बच्चे की umbilical cord जो होती है नॉन, जिसको हम कहते हैं in our traditional language, उसको क्लिप किया जाता है, काट दी जाती है. and उसके बाद what happens is that these contractions and relaxations continue to occur. These contractions and relaxations continue to occur due to this hormone, oxytocin hormone. When the fetus is expelled out, when the baby is born, then there is third stage. That stage we call placental stage. Placental stage means after birth stage. After birth stage. This you have to study in class 12. But right now you should understand the basic things. What happens is that this uterus undergoes contractions and relaxations. Contractions begin from higher areas to lower areas. Due to these contractions and relaxations, what happens? Pain begins. After pain occurs, the contractions and relaxations further intensify. These contractions and relaxations push the baby out. When the baby is expelled out through the birth canal, After that, this is the umbilical cord. This umbilical cord is clipped. When umbilical cord is clipped, what is then left out? The further contractions and relaxations continue to occur. In these further contractions and relaxations, it is this placenta that breaks, and the fragments of placenta are also removed out. That stage we call afterbirth stage. But right now you do not have to study too much about the reproduction. What you have to study simply is that from the hypothalamus there is a special neurohormone produced. That hormone you call oxytocin hormone. It is this oxytocin hormone that is then stored in the Herring's bodies in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. And this oxytocin hormone has a receptor in the uterus. If this is a pregnant lady, this pregnant lady undergoes mild contractions and relaxations that you call Braxton Hicks reflexes. Now, the next point is that these contractions and relaxations of uterus stimulate the release of oxytocin. So, should we say that? Let me tell you one important fact here before going further. The important point is that there is the production of special chemical. That chemical you call prostaglandin. Prostaglandin is also known as local hormone. Prostaglandins are usually produced from the uterus. So these prostaglandins cause mild contractions. These prostaglandins cause mild contractions in the uterus. These contractions, muscle contractions, uterus की contractions, these contractions signal release of oxytocin hormone. These contractions signal release of oxytocin hormone. These contractions signal release of oxytocin hormone. Okay. What then happens is that it is this oxytocin hormone that increases the contractions. It is this oxytocin hormone that increases the contractions. When I say oxytocin hormone increases the contractions, I mean oxytocin hormone causes the beginning of labor pain. यहां पर पूरा फोकस करना. कंट्रैक्शंस की वजह से, यूट्रस की कंट्रैक्शंस की वजह से ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन रिलीज हुआ, और ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन इन्हीं कंट्रैक्शंस को और तेज करता है. दिस हार्मोन, ये हार्मोन निकला, ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन निकला ड्यू टू कंट्रैक्शंस ऑफ यूट्रस. अब ये हार्मोन फिर से यूट्रस की कंट्रैक्शंस को इंक्रीज करता है. व्हाट इज द कॉज ऑफ रिलीज ऑफ ऑक्सीटोसिन हार्मोन? After it is released, this hormone intensifies that very cause. The cause of a release of hormone, cause is contractions. Cause of a release of hormone, oxytocin क्या निकलना, it was due to mild contractions of uterus. अब जब ये हार्मोन निकला, इस हार्मोन ने और इंक्रीज किया वो cause. When a cause is intensified by the release of a particular hormone, this mechanism you call positive feedback mechanism. You should understand it. Positive feedback mechanism of hormone action. Positive feedback mechanism of hormone action. पॉजिटिव फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म ऑफ हार्मोन एक्शन का मतलब ये होता है, अगर कोई हार्मोन निकला ड्यू टू ए पर्टिकुलर कॉज, एंड आफ्टर द रिलीज ऑफ दैट हार्मोन द कॉज ऑफ इट्स रिलीज इज फर्दर इंटेंसिफाइड. व्हाट आई मीन इन अ सिंपलेस्ट लैंग्वेज इज दैट अगर कोई हार्मोन निकला किसी खास वजह से, वो हार्मोन निकलने के बाद उस वजह में और थोड़ा सा इंटेंसिफिकेशन आ जाएगी. यानी कि यूट्रस की कंट्रैक्शंस की वजह से हार्मोन निकला, उस हार्मोन ने यूट्रस की कंट्रैक्शंस को और ज्यादा इंटेंसिफाई किया. हार्मोन निकला ड्यू टू कंट्रैक्शंस एंड रिलैक्सेशंस ऑफ यूटेरस. हार्मोन जब निकला ब्लड में पहुंचा, ब्लड में पहुंचने के बाद जब वो हार्मोन टारगेट ऑर्गन तक पहुंच गया और टारगेट ऑर्गन यूट्रस मिली और यूट्रस में कंट्रैक्शन एंड रिलैक्सेशन को और इंटेंसिफाई किया, किसी काम को और इंटेंसिफाई करना, जिसकी वजह से वो निकला था वो हार्मोन। इसी मैकेनिज्म को हमने कहा पॉजिटिव फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म। इन नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में आपको सिखाऊंगा समथिंग कॉल्ड नेगेटिव फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म। फिलहाल check your NCERT for this very important homework. Write a note on positive feedback mechanism of hormone action. This is the first function of oxytocin hormone. Now the second function of oxytocin hormone. And after that we will stop our class. Let us suppose this is the mammary gland. This is the mammary gland of human females. When I say mammary gland, I mean breasts. So these breasts contain, or these mammary glands contain special tissues. These tissues are known as glandular tissues. These tissues are known as glandular tissues. So these glandular tissues are actually मिल्क प्रोड्यूसिंग टिश्यूज, दूध बनाने के काम आते हैं, मिल्क प्रोड्यूसिंग टिश्यूज। ओके, फाइनली दिस मिल्क इज देन poured into special pipes. These pipes are called lactiferous ducts. These pipes are actually known as lactiferous ducts. And finally this lactiferous duct opens out at this very structure that you call nipple. Hope this much you know. In the breast of a human mother there is present glandular tissue. It is this glandular tissue that is responsible for the production of milk. Now once milk is produced, production of milk is under the control of prolactin hormone. That will be discussed in next lecture. But right now what I am telling you is that after the production of milk, this milk is to be ejected out. इस दूध को बाहर निकालना है, दूध का मेमोरी ग्लैंड से बाहर निकालना। That we call milk let down reflex. That we call milk let down reflex. This milk let down reflex causes due to the contraction and relaxation of these ducts, as well as due to these structures that you call alveoli or simply glandular tissue. Oxytocin hormone, this hormone, oxytocin hormone, released from the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. Oxytocin hormone is also responsible for milk let down reflex. यानी कि oxytocin hormone stimulates, it is this oxytocin hormone that is the receptor in the mammary gland of females. This oxytocin hormone stimulates the release of milk from the mother's breast. Release of milk from mammary glands. Mammary gland से दूध बाहर निकालना, mammary gland से दूध बाहर निकालना, milk let down, that is also controlled by oxytocin hormone. अच्छा, एक और बात याद रखना, it is this oxytocin hormone that has a very unique role, that it has a role to play in controlling likings and dislikings. It is this hormone that is responsible for, scientists say that it is this hormone that is responsible for social bondings. What you like, what you dislike, when you are happy, when you are sad, there is something called social behavior. This social behavior is also controlled by this hormone. But you should not remember like this. You should remember only first two important functions in this lecture. One is It intensifies the uterus contractions and relaxations and eases the birth of the baby. So oxytocin may be called birth hormone. Oxytocin may be called a birth hormone. And the second thing is like that, it is this oxytocin hormone that stimulates the milk ejection from the mammary glands of the mother's breasts. From the mother breast, milk let down reflex, दूध का बाहर निकलना from the mammary glands, that is also controlled by oxytocin hormone. In our next lecture, we will go through vasopressin hormone. Hope you like it. Repeatedly watch, you will get the concepts clear.